So for those of you online, we'll be starting just a little bit later, maybe 5 more minutes.
Got it. Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay. Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Sorry for our tardiness. This is a water board meeting number 9-25 held at the Hilton Garden Inn in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and live streamed on YouTube. I'd like to welcome one and all here today. The first item of business is roll call.
Mr. Barker.
Here.
Ms. Cole-Hansen. Here. Mr. Gibbs.
Here.
Mr. McMahon.
Here.
Mr. Olmstead.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Grandstone.
Here.
And Chairman Raybould.
Here. Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and then we will take a look at the minutes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend the order of the agenda to move the Surface Water Operational Efficiency Program Awards to immediately after the public comment.
Maybe before public comment? I've got significant public comment.
Even, okay, then before the public comment, I understand Mr. Barlogi has places, important places to be this afternoon, so if we can get him on his way, I would appreciate that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda with the one change in the order of the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We also have 2 sets of minutes that have been sent out to the board. Did anyone peruse those minutes and ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
For both 7:25 and
Both of them,
8:25?
yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we will now move to the next agenda item, which is now Surface Water Operational Efficiencies Program Awards.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, let's see, is Justin Ferguson on Zoom?
He is.
Okay, he's handling that item this morning, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good morning. Let's see, let me share my screen real quick. And I just wanted to give you all a quick run through of the program, and then I'll actually hand it off to Neil Farmer to take care of American Falls Reservoir District. So back in May, you all had passed a resolution to use some of the new funding to establish a program for surface water efficiencies, helping surface water canal companies improve their canals and reduce demand. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight before I hand it off. The funding limit is discretionary or at your discretion. Projects may be funded up to 100%. And then the application requirements that staff were looking for, we were looking for efficiency results likely to be achieved, a good project proposal. And then we asked if the applicants could provide us any additional project funding sources, if they're getting federal funding, state funding, things like that. And then this last bullet was, how does this project promote state and or local priorities? And so that was something that we wanted the applicants to have the opportunity to come talk to you all about. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and hand it off to Neil for American Falls.
Okay. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning. The surface water efficiency program had a proposal submitted by American Falls Reservoir District 2 to study their system. That proposal went through the subcommittee and also a hearty review by staff and combination with canal company staff also and managers. And in your materials, you'll find a memo describing that proposal and overview of information associated with it. In essence, the JUB engineering will be evaluating their entire system to determine a needs-based information for evaluating improvements of the efficiency of the canal system in order to decrease diversions at Milner and decrease spills back to the Snake River while still maintaining deliveries to their water users. There is also a detailed summary and schedule of for this project to be completed in that memo for next summer. And the project is recommended by staff. There is a board resolution in your materials. There is one correction that should be noted on line 25. We have the corrected version available, and that changes the canal company from Twin Falls Canal Company to AFRD2, which is the correct one. And the amount for the board's review and consideration is $991,000 and change. And we probably have Canal Company staff and our JB online for any questions or thoughts.
Okay, board members, any questions about this proposal? I think we're good here, Neil.
Okay.
The proponents have a comment they wish to share with us? Okay, hearing none, let's look at the resolution.
The resolution, I believe you can see on my screen. And line 25 is where there was a correction made from Twin Falls to AFRD 2.
Okay, board members, any questions on the resolution? I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution. Pat?
I'd move to authorize funding for efficiency study cost related system improvements for AFRD number 2.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? We will proceed to vote. Jennifer, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Barker?
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen? Aye. Mr. Gibbs? Mr. Gibbs, you're muted.
Hi, here we go.
Mr. McMahon?
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
And Chairman Raybould.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, are we back to Justin for the next one? Yes.
Right, let me fire up my screen share real quick. There we are. All right. Staff also received an application from the Twin Falls Canal Company, looking for funding for $26,340,915. Now you all heard from Mr. Barloggi yesterday, did a great job of running through the proposal better than I could ever do. So just a quick recap. They're looking to line their canals. There's a stretch highlighted down here in this block, along with a stretch over here, and develop a recharge pit. And then on top of that, we're looking, there we go. They're looking at updating and installing new telemetry and measuring and monitoring equipment for their return flows. The project is looking to be split across 8 years. Their contractor is optimistic, but after talking to Jay, I absolutely see where they're coming from. This project's estimated to save between about 19,000 and 68,000 acre feet of water, depending on flows through the year. And the improvements to their telemetry system is only going to help better monitor those return flows and how much they need every year. And with that, I can jump straight to the resolution unless there are any questions. I'm happy to pause and go through the proposal. I know
Board
Jay
members,
spent some time with it.
Board members, any questions for Justin on the proposal? We had a presentation on this yesterday during our work session. Okay, I think we're good, Justin.
So a couple of things that I wanted to highlight for you all here. In this first, now therefore it be resolved on line 33, the IWRB approves funding for the Twin Falls Canal Company in the amount of $26,340,915. And then,
Yeah.
oh, 915, sorry about that. And then actually jumping down here to line 38, that the funding shall be dispersed in annual installments. And we've worked with the Twin Falls Canal Company to find out what those installments could look like. And so here at line 42, the first installment would be $11 million for the purchase of the geomembrane, some installation, and a little bit of work done this year. $4 million of that to be funded under the FY 2026 appropriation, and then $7 million from funding budgeted from the water management's ESPA improvement project and other regional water sustainability bucket. And then from there, we've broken out what payments could look like years 2 through 8. And with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, board members, any questions from Justin? Okay, is a project proponent, Jay, do you have anything that you would like to comment on at this time?
Mr. Chairman, no.
Okay, all right. Okay, there's no further questions. I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt this resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion to adopt? Okay, there being none, we'll proceed to vote. Jennifer, if you could please, a roll call vote.
Mr. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. McMahon,
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead,
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone,
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
We'll now go to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. The first one I have on the list here is Jeff Bowman. Mr. Bowman, if you could give us your name and do we need a location you're on?
Name and, yeah, just city of residence.
Yeah, city of residence and name. Maybe come up here where the this thing in the middle of the room, which is called an owl, is kind of a microphone. If you stand a little closer to that, the people who are participating online will be able to hear your comments.
Okay, my name is Jeff Bowman. I live in Pocatello, Idaho.
Okay.
I am here with Mount Pisgah Mining District. I've been working with IDWR, the Forest Service, Fish and Game, and IDEQ. There was a Snake River Basin Plan that was put in place in 1994. And so we've done a new EA, the Forest Service has, to evaluate because there was misinterpretation on the original EA. They evaluated 5 dredges up there during the time of the evaluation. The new EA allows for 15 dredges to be up there. And they take approximately 1.27% of the waterway for the dredging per season. And so what we're asking the water board to do is to amend the existing EA or revisit it. I've been dealing with Neely Miller here. And if you want to come up,
I just would clarify, it's the South Fork Snake River Basin Plan.
Oh, okay.
yeah, and so we're just trying to get it so that we have the 15 dredges allowed. IDWR, IDEQ, Forest Service has already accepted and put it into play. IDWR is the only one that hasn't. They said I had to come before the board to get them to accept the number of dredges. You've accepted the date. It starts in a week on August 1st through October 31st. But I'm trying to get it so that we can get the 15 dredges instead of the 5. We have all the impact statements. We have everything that's been submitted to IDWR. So I'm just asking that we could go forward and review this and see if we can get it into play and remove the 3804B as a joint application for where we have to send it to the Army Corps of Engineers. That's the only difference between the letter permit and the joint application. And so the difference is the Army Corps of Engineers, they just send you a letter that says they do not regulate any dredging in Idaho. And that's the only difference between the 2 permits. And so I just like it so that we could go back to the letter permit, 15 of them. We don't mind the additional charge if there's the additional charge to match what the fee is for the joint permit. I would just like to be able to get the 15 dredges active again up there. And that's where I'm standing at. I won't take up any more of your time.
Okay. All right. Is there a limit written into the basin plan?
Mr. Chairman, as I understand it, yes, back in '96, when the board adopted that basin plan, they imposed a limit that was based on the amount allowed by the Forest Service under the environmental assessment at that time. The Forest Service has since changed their number and allowed a higher number, but it's still limited by the basin plan.
So, but do we have the discretion to adjust that basin plan without legislative approval?
I have asked staff and the Attorney General's office to look at that issue. And I think that I would recommend that you refer this item to the planning committee so that the planning committee can invite the staff in, and Raybould has looked at this issue and has some suggested paths forward.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as for the planning committee, what's your timeline that you need for 15, like tomorrow, right?
No, by next season.
Oh, by next
It
season,
isn't
okay.
until August 1st of next season. They send out the new regulations for dredging and everything. They do them in April, May, and you have to apply by June. And so we have through June of next year to get this in play, because it can't happen by the 1st of August this year.
It's not in 7 days.
No,
Okay.
no. If we could go forward with it for next year's new book, we are great with that. We just appreciate you guys even looking at it.
Thank you.
I think we'll give it a look. It's just, we have to do our thing the way we're authorized to do our thing. So.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, thank you.
thanks, sir.
Okay, next up would be John Williams from the Oregon Power Administration. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, I have a couple of updates for you on Bonneville. Actually, there's 3. Give you an update on the records, the residential exchange program, and the rate case. On the records, I know I'm getting a lot of questions regarding, they're going to end. They end this year. Good news, we're going to extend the current allotment of money to 2028. So hopefully that answers your question. We do want to continue to do the reports, but during this transition period, we need to take a pause and look at some things that's going on region-wide. So hopefully that answers your question.
So that gives us 3 more years.
With the current funding.
Yeah. Okay.
So the money that's there is going to carry over for 3 years. Okay. On the residential exchange program, we'll host a workshop this Monday to discuss the process and propose public engagement timelines. Just to let you know, during the past 3 months, we've had conversations with the states of Montana, Washington, Oregon, and of course, Idaho Public Utilities Commission staff under the residential exchange program. So they have been engaged with Bonneville. On the rate case, the record decision was published yesterday. This is a 3-year rate period that begins October 1st, 2025, ending in September 30th of 2028. The power rate increase is 8.9%. Transmission rate increase is 19.9%. BPA reached 3 rate settlements that strike a balance between setting rates that are stable, predictable, and low for regional customers, while allowing BPA to meet its statutory obligations in a sound, fiscally responsible manner. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my update. That was quick, so I stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for John?
Mr. Chairman.
Cole-Hansen.
John, is that rate increases, is that 8.9% over the 3 years, or is it 8.9% each year for the 3 years?
Over the 3 years.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate you making the trip to Eastern Idaho to be with us, and appreciate your being brief.
Well, thank you, and you are in Bonneville service territory.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Jody Fisher.
For
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm here today to speak on the cloud seeding program in the Bear River Basin. I'm here with two other colleagues, and we're here to provide some information in response to your meeting yesterday to make sure you have as much information as possible in context prior to your vote today. So I'll be speaking on some aviation aspects. Our Director of Meteorology will speak on some science and policy, and Caleb Golden, who you're all familiar with, will be speaking on some industry concerns. So my name is Jody Fisher, and I'm the Vice President of Flight Operations for Weather Modification International. I'm also a Weather Modification Association certified operator. I have 25 years of experience in cloud seeding and atmospheric research around the globe, primarily as a pilot. One of my responsibilities today is to oversee our aircraft operations here in Idaho, which you guys are familiar with since you contribute a significant amount of financial contribution to that program. And we're very proud of our successful and safe operation. In fact, we have 60 years of safe aircraft operations. Being the primary provider for aerial operations here in Idaho since 2003, we have 2,400 hours of safe operations. Manned aircraft operations were mentioned in your meeting yesterday as being unsafe or intimated that they can be unsafe. And that's just not the case. The environment that we operate here can be very challenging and demanding, but the caliber of the aircraft, the crew member training, their knowledge in cloud seeding, that's what provides a safe outcome each and every time. We also invest a lot into our team and safety, so we contract with a third-party training vendor to provide initial aircraft training to our pilots, then regularly schedule recurrent training on a regular basis. We also have a chief safety officer in our company that regularly monitors operations for safety. Our director of training is also a former professor at the University of North Dakota in their atmospheric or aviation aerospace science department. And he helped build and teach as a professor from ground up the aviation safety degree program. So you can see we invest a lot in safety, and we're focused on safety in our company. The WMI aircraft and team requires snowing, which you guys are all very familiar with. Snowing not only proved that cloud seeding worked and it's a viable technology, but it also demonstrated that aircraft operations can be conducted safely. I'd also like to address, in a reference to the duration limitation of the aircraft that was mentioned in the meeting yesterday. Anything that's powered by something or has a powered source has a limitation of duration. The aircraft, however, can cover several miles of a large target area. If the weather changes, which the weather always behaves as we expect, as we all know, the aircraft can change its flight pattern or its mission to accommodate those changing conditions without any restrictions. And the team in the aircraft can relay time-sensitive information to the meteorology team on the ground that's also supporting the operation for quick decision making. The manned aircraft provides a lot of flexibility to the cloud seeding operations, so it would counter any perceived duration limitation. So in closing, I'd just like to say we have a lot of experience at our company, safe aircraft operation, and our operations always deem to be basically two things: provide a safe technology and a proven technology for operational programs. That I can take any questions.
Okay, board members, any questions for Mr. Fisher? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Fisher, so you operate the program in Idaho and what other states did you say?
We operated in North Dakota. We did operate in Wyoming through last year, California. We're also in Alberta and Saudi Arabia.
And have you been contacted by Utah or at this point they've run a different program?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Darren Langard. Is that right?
It's a good try.
Okay.
Darren Langard, Director of Meteorology at WMI. Mr. Chairman, board members, thanks for giving us some time here this morning to speak on this topic. I recently joined the private sector after having been the state director in North Dakota for the cloud seeding program for the last 25 years. And I'm also a Weather Modification Association certified manager, similar certification level that Julie has. I've also got perspective on this field through my work with the North American Weather Modification Council, and I participated on the committee that develops the American Society of Civil Engineers National Guidelines for Cloud seeding. I'd like to make just a couple of key points echoing in addition to what Jody said. A concern that we have is that the weather modification industry right now is currently facing a threat of a federal ban with a bill that has been introduced in the House. One that's been, significantly fueled by misinformation, conspiracy theories, and the like, and perceived lack of transparency in the industry. Many members of the public have expressed concern that they've not been adequately informed of given meaningful opportunities to weigh in on the development of and the implementation of these types of programs. In my experience, virtually all publicly funded weather modification programs, whether they're for research or for operations, function under a public procurement process, a competitive process. In North Dakota, despite our company having operated there for 60 years and being a resident North Dakota company, we're still required to follow public rules, procurement delegated by the state during any kind of transaction. Our industry is under public scrutiny and accused of not being transparent. As an industry, we must avoid any conduct that would tend to feed that narrative. Finally, with regard to the feasibility study of the BEAR that this board has funded, if this is an operational project, meaning it's intended to put water in the basin, it would be prudent to stick to scientifically validated seeding methods as we're evaluated in the feasibility study, that being manned aircraft and ground-based seeding. Manned aircraft seeding has been proven effective by the Snowy research campaign, as Jody mentioned, conducted in PED in 2017. So from both a public policy and a scientific standpoint, adhering to proven validated methods is the most responsible path forward for any state-funded operational program. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Hey, board members, any questions? Brian?
Mr. Chairman, Darren, I probably should know this, but so you operate for the board in partnership with Idaho Power on our Snake River and Payette and Boise Big Wood drainages. We did a small project in the Bear a few years ago, but the Idaho Power doesn't seem to have much interest in the Bear. Do you guys, can the board hire you guys to do the Bear? Would you have the capability to do that without the Idaho Power partnership? I guess is my answer.
I don't know that I can answer that question directly, but I believe that the feasibility study that you funded did look at the possibility of partnership with the Upper Snake and the Bear possibly being included in that partnership. I think Kayla would have a lot more information on that specific topic.
But you would probably like to do it with Idaho Power. They could be convinced that there's benefit between the Bear and the salt, for instance. Thanks.
Mr. Fisher, you have a comment?
I can provide some context to the question by the board member. Yes, in essence, yes, our company can do that operation on our own without Idaho Power. But because you already have an operation in that part of the area, to have a shared resource would be the most cost-effective way to do it through Idaho Power.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have our longtime associate, Kayla Golden.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As always, thank you for being here today and for the opportunity to come back before you. I don't believe I need any formal introductions with anybody in this room, but for the public record, my name is Kayla Golden. So as you are all very much aware, I served as your Cloud Seeding Program Manager for 6.5 years before transitioning into a broader role in the weather modification industry. I now manage programs across the Americas for Weather Modification International, including the United States, Canada, Central and South America, which include my company's interest in this program that the board funds right here in my home state of Idaho. I also serve as a member of the Weather Modification Association's Public Information Committee and act informally as a liaison between the association and other key stakeholders. As some of you are aware, I also held the position of Vice President of the North American Weather Modification Council until I recently left public service. Although my professional experiences do qualify me to guide the key concerns and key points that I would like to bring before you today, I want to be clear for this public record that I am here to speak primarily as an Idahoan and as a taxpayer of this state, and as an individual who is deeply passionate about the integrity of the weather modification industry, as most of you are all very aware. So I do have strong concerns about its future. I do want to also note that I am still a public servant at heart. My years in public service created the foundation of my professional career, and that perspective is what continues to shape how I approach these issues and the recommendations that I'd like to bring before you today. So Mr. Chairman, I just have 4 brief points that I would like to cover today, and then I would stand for any questions. First, I will reiterate, as Darren mentioned, is federal legislation and public mistrust. So our industry, as Darren said, is facing serious federal scrutiny, including proposed legislation that was introduced on July 15th to ban weather modification outright, which would affect this program and all programs in the United States. This push is being fueled by misinformation, conspiracies, and growing public concern about transparency and public input. And in this climate, Idaho and Utah, being the 2 most advanced programs in the country, must be especially careful to lead with accountability and integrity. So the second concern that I bring before you is the concerns with the Utah proposal. These are concerns that I have long voiced long before my departure and transition. The project proposal before you for consideration today, which includes nearly $5 million in public funds for the total project, would fund the use of new and innovative technologies that have not undergone any type of peer review, independent evaluation, or competitive procurement process. It is being justified using a study that modeled an entirely different technology under different assumptions. To be clear, that feasibility and design study only assessed manned aircraft and remote ground generators. It did not consider any other types of technologies. So to compare these 2 as a justification for this project is not a scientifically sound approach, and it creates credibility risks for both programs. So the third point I would like to make, Mr. Chairman, is the alignment between funding purposes and the project scope. Regarding the Bear River Basin project. So both states allocated funding specifically for water production, and water production is an operational goal. So it is my core belief that the operational goals should be carried out using proven technology. So if the board's goal is to produce water at the most reasonable cost to the taxpayers, the only path forward is proven technology. However, if the board's goal is to explore new technologies, innovative technologies, then it should be clearly stated as such, and it must be openly acknowledged that we cannot in confidence yet state what any potential effects from those technologies may be. So the last and final point that I'd like to make, Mr. Chairman, are the national implications of any decisions that are made here today. Idaho and Utah, as I mentioned, lead the nation in weather modification. How this board chooses to proceed will influence national policy and perception. Approving a project that lacks clear purpose alignment, transparency, and rigorous scientific validation risks fueling the very narratives that are threatening the future of the weather modification industry. So in closing, Mr. Chairman, I want to be very clear. I fully support innovation and advancement in weather modification, and I believe this is something that public agencies should continue to explore. But for public agency who must openly demonstrate the benefit to the public good, it must be addressed for what it is and not characterized as proven technology capable of meeting operational goals to produce water until it has been properly validated and as it's otherwise indefensible for a state agency. So you've heard this from me before, and I will reiterate it again. Being clear about what we know and what we are still working to understand is essential to protecting the integrity of this industry and the science as a whole. And Mr. Chairman, that is all I have for you today. I very much appreciate the time to come back before you and hear my comments. I will stand for any questions.
Hey, board members, any questions for Kayla? I think we're good. Thank you for coming over. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Brian Murdoch. Mr. Murdoch?
I gotta get my glasses off in just half a second. Trying to be brief and stay to the point. I'm Brian Murdoch. I represent myself. I have chased this board all across this great state of Idaho, Moscow, Boise. Apparently me and John Williams and Paul Arrington are your only groupies that the law board has. But I have considered, I've always come before you begging, it seems like, or I guess the fancy word is advocating, that you would consider or reconsider many issues. I've been before you about the funding pause on the recharge wells and also the permitting process that needed to happen. And I've also talked with you about the Teton Dam and water, state water plan. I've talked with you about funding issues, about how you budgeted, what you budgeted, and I have basically been asking you guys to help figure out some solutions. The other day on July 11th, you tabled what I considered one of the solutions that we have, and that was the progressive canal recharge projects that they had brought before you, the two of them. And I guess I'm once again begging the board here to reconsider that, and for 4 basic reasons. Number one, we need recharge basins. This is, as the director would say, this is a tool in our toolbox, and we need every recharge basin we can get. I support all recharge basins. I support progressive. I support Darrell Kerr's and the enterprise. I support everything that the Bonneville Jefferson has done. I support that you heard all those yesterday, everything that Bingham County has done. These are important. As I said, I represent myself, but at the same point in time, in representing myself, I am a groundwater user. I was one of those guys that got the red tag stuck on his well. All right, this matters to me because everything that these individuals are doing is helping me, and I can't do this by myself. I need these canal companies. I need all these projects approved. It's even like what's going on down south in the Twin Falls Canal. You know, I even approved that. Here's my, and I'm jaded as to what the Twin Falls Canal Company, but after listening to what Jay Barlogi explained yesterday, I can understand the safety concern and why maybe that lining project is needed. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are looking into that. I guess the third reason is because I believe the Progressive Canal is also addressing your concerns. They have sharpened their pencils. They are figuring out a way to make this not quite as expensive. And then probably the fourth reason is looking at the timeliness of this project. You have to remember a couple things. Number one, this ground is available. Number two, that they want to purchase for the Big Basin study or for the Big Basin recharge area. The other issue is the county is requiring them to fix whatever damages to the roads that has happened in the South Fork recharge site. And so therefore, they would like to get this other project done before they have to fix the road, rather than fix the road and then try to address this other recharge basin. They would like to get that done first and then fix the road after it's done. They can be digging and moving that pile. I appreciate your comments, Chairman Raybould, the other day is, underneath one of these recharge sites, on top is a great big pile of dirt. Well, they want to move the dirt and dig at the same point in time and then fix the road. And this is where timeliness matters. I appreciate Progressive Canal, and when this spring happened, their recharge site was up and running. Now, we didn't get that long of a recharge cycle this year, but they were available, and this was helping. To address your costs, your final thing, in East Idaho, we don't have the same luxury that they do down in the lower valley, where our recharge basins are situated and where they work best is actually in the populated areas. And this ground is expensive. It's not like it is out where milepost 31, which is basically out in the middle of the lavas and you know, a little depression out there where that ground is not necessarily available for housing and all these other concerns. And so, yes, the cost, as Matt Anders yesterday was addressing, the cost concerns between what's happening in the upper valley and what's happening in the lower valley, but that's an apples and oranges problem. We have to buy this ground away from the developers to see this happen. And yes, because of all of that, we have other issues that are causing headaches. This population up here, they are somewhat fighting as we're requiring this recharge to happen up here, and so therefore there's all these problems. But I guess I would ask you to reconsider your tabling as quickly as possible, because at this time, days matter, and whatever work can be accomplished now will be beneficial to us later on. Lastly, since this same massive population conspired against me to be able to get here on time to testify about your public comment about the state water plan and the SPA camp the other night, nice wreck on I-15. That's why I walked in 20 minutes late. But I would like to take this opportunity real quickly to say I support the state water plan revision of the 100,000 acre feet addition. That is necessary. I supported this every time I could over at the legislature. Whenever I testified before any of the committees, I stood up and said, Idaho needs this. We need this. But at the same point in time, that 100,000 acre feet, that's a drop in the bucket. That's not enough. One of the other things I wanted to point out was this, and this is something that Senator Kevin Cook, who I was hoping would be here today, but I'm not seeing him here, he has been pushing. This was the other thing that happened this last session, Senate Joint Memorial 101, in which this asked for the studies to get pushed forward. We need to support this. I know the Water Board has already signed his petition that this is relating to. But at the same point in time, I need the Water Board to also start voicing more public support for it. We have a governor who supposedly he has now said, yes, he supports these studies, but he's not being very vocal about it. In fact, we also got a lieutenant governor that's not necessarily being very vocal about it. I'm hoping that that was what his phone call to you yesterday morning was about, was him calling to tell you that he's, wants you to voice support, that, he agrees with these studies. But obviously, since you didn't answer it, we'll never know what he wanted. But anyway, I guess here's my point. We need recharge to address the problems that we're having. But without this, we're only getting recharge for a couple of weeks a year. As Mr. Butters told me yesterday, we got these wonderful sites that are only being used for so long. It's not necessarily cost effective. If we could recharge for months rather than weeks, then we would start to change things. We would have all this available and we would progress and continue to keep making Idaho a great state. With that, I appreciate it. I don't suppose you guys would entertain a motion at this point in time to add an agenda vote or a change in the agenda to vote to untable that, but that would be great. With that, I end. Thank you.
Okay, board members, any questions from Mr. Murdoch?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Not a question, but I think we agree with a lot of, at least I agree with a lot of what you say, Brian, and I think we need all the tools, including more of the recharge basins. I'm not going to try to bring that one off the table today because we've got some things we've got some issues that we have to deal with. We've got so much money and we've got all these different tools, but we're committed to doing a whole bunch more for recharge in this upper valley, and as soon as we can, and find the best ways we can do that. So I appreciate your comments and being here today.
Well, I will probably chase you guys to Twin Falls after Mr. Barlowski promised me safe passage and I will get shot. So,
Okay.
see you at your next one.
Thank
Thank
you. Okay, Daryl Kerr.
Darrell Kerr, 4861 North, 44 East, Idaho Falls. I serve as a board member on the Enterprise Canal, which I make $1,500 a year. And I have to justify my $1,500. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the Water Board and staff at IDWR, I have relished and wanted this moment to stand before you, and I'll be brief. I have several papers, even a handout for each of you if you want it, like you need something else to read. I hope I don't mess up somebody's computer here. But Mr. Chairman and members of the board, there has been a lot of things that the Enterprise has done. It's Enterprise Canal, it's not Darrell Kerr. Enterprise Canal has committed, and especially on each and every project, have committed not only publicly, but through every agency required, necessary, and if I can, let me state just a few. BPA, Bonneville Power Administration, Rocky Mountain Power, Eastern Idaho Railroad, Union Pacific Railroad, Bureau of Reclamation, Idaho Department of Lands, Idaho Department of Transportation, Department of Environmental Quality, and United States Army Corps of Engineers, Bonneville County, Planning and Zoning, Bonneville County, Road and Bridge, and including the Attorney General's office. I have just a brief couple of things I'd like to read to each of you, and I'll be brief. My wife says I put her to sleep when I read, so I appreciate that. Members of the committee, members of the board, members of this great state of Idaho, I stand before you today to make a point that the Enterprise Canal, no matter what the rhetoric, no matter what falsehoods were stated, no matter what was publicized by the media, that the Enterprise Canal has maintained a commitment to be honest, dutiful stewards of their responsibility to provide water, to put it in the ground, to do, and with that, I think that recharge is essential, but I would like to account to you for some of the money that I've spent. Members of the board, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we're aware of media reports concerning one from our neighbor among the area, many in the area. Only one resident nearby issues, while the broader community acknowledges the project's benefits, we value open dialogue and have prioritized collaboration with that neighbor despite the neighbors agreeing to or accepting any or many mitigated measures to Enterprise. Without acknowledging it publicly, and despite the one neighbor making numerous demonstrable false statements, claims by that one neighbor about alleged property damage, such as cracked foundations, sand and well, were taken seriously. We conducted through thorough and expert investigations and found these claims to be baseless. Regular groundwater and recharge water testing in the Sentinel wells of nearby domestic wells consistently yielded excellent results. The Bonneville County Board, in its May 2025 decision approving the expansion of the site, that the same one neighbor's claims overlooked compliance with approval and conditions, and that the claims about water quality issues were speculative, having not seen any supporting evidence for the same. We've also hired professional Eagle Rock Blasting to perform seismic testing to address claims of vibration during the excavation process. The results of that testing report confirmed that there could not be any possible impact on the neighbor's property. Our commitment to environmental stewardship, working with the state and local government, is unwavering. We sought all proper permitting for this project. In addition to Bonneville County's requirements, a permit to recharge basin as a water reservoir, which Enterprise Canal followed every item, every detail, every sentence required by Bonneville County in order to do what we've done. And I'm proud to say that the Enterprise is the only one that's done a basin that's went through all these agencies to seek and get approval and to live by a standard of obeying, upholding the law, as well as our local governments. We've implemented a comprehensive fugitive dust control plan with DEQ, addressing sources like roads, material piles, equipment drop points. Measures exceeded requirements, constructing excellent protected berms, overseeding them with drones, using wildflowers, crested wheatgrass, detailed logs of dust. Control activity and monitoring ensure minimal impact to the surrounding area. In fact, DEQ visits my site, and I don't know about anybody else, but I invite DEQ to be there to look at this site as we go forward, because I think the transparency in this situation, especially with all the public rhetoric and the falsehoods that have been stated about what the Enterprise has done, is critical that these agencies who have control are involved in our work. We've also worked with other organizations. Idaho Department of Transportation, Bureau of Reclamation. We required permitting and bonding from the Department of Lands. Enterprises stands committed to uphold and sustain the law, protect people's interests, protect neighboring properties, and we deeply appreciate the community's support for recharge and share your goal in sustainable solutions that enhance quality of life. We continue to engage the community members with transparency, with openness, and the 55th Road Project Basin stands as a testament to our shared dedication to securing Idaho's water future. We look forward to ongoing collaboration, exploring future projects, and further strengthen our water resources. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I stand before you today to say we did everything required by each individual agency, and with approval and a letter of acknowledgement that we've done. Enterprise is not the responsible party for the memorandum of or moratorium, excuse me. In fact, we've been a partner with the county in moving this forward, in helping other basins. And so as long as you want to do recharge, pick the good basins. You don't need them with lava rock in the bottom. You need a good, solid, porous surface for the water to filtrate, because the water testing that we've done has been better. I even got a letter from the LDS Church and a phone call because they monitor their wells consistently. They congratulated us on the value of the better, cleaner, less stagnant water from their well. And so, on behalf of the Enterprise Canal and its board of directors, Stephen Campbell, Scott Gilbert, Mel Cooper, Jeff Brown, and Darrell Curran, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Water Board. I've wanted to account to you and would love to account to you for everything that you've helped us do. But know this, that those of us on the Enterprise Canal stand with the stewardship to uphold the law and be a better partner than we were when we started this process. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll spare the details of the majority of the letter, but I want you to know that we are doing everything possible. And we are making it a better project and a better place. And the phone calls have went down and problems have been resolved. And the public comment from a few people still is outrageous and not honest, but we stand willing and committed to provide a good water recharge basin to our neighbors, and especially in accountability to the state water board for the money that's being given to Price Canal. With that, Mr. Chairman, I stand for any questions.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Kerr? Okay, thank you, Daryl. If you had something you wanted the board to receive, you leave that to Jennifer. She'll see what you're doing.
Mr. Chairman, what would you like me to leave it?
With Jennifer.
Make sure I get all the papers here.
Okay, next up, we have Jake Burkshop. I believe the Harrison Canal, is that who you're?
Yeah. I come before you as a farmer and also as a taxpayer. I printed off 7 pieces of documents to try to spread around to everyone. I'll hold on to one for a moment. I sent this over to you, Jeff, and I also had an opportunity to send it over to Brian yesterday. The data. As a taxpayer, the first thing I noticed yesterday as I came to this meeting is that the Harrison Canal pilot project is the cheapest way to sink water. And it was tabled, which is fine because I understand there has to be more understanding. It has to be what's really happening. And so I wouldn't expect it to happen immediately. But as a farmer, as a taxpayer, I look at that and say, what is our cheapest way to sink water? And your own numbers demonstrate that the Harrison pilot program that happened on my own farm this year is your cheapest way and is your safest way. Those aren't my numbers, those are yours. And so as a taxpayer, I say, that's what we need to explore. Now as a farmer, I've often thought about this growing up. I own over 2,800 acres. Currently, we have about 2,300 acres on the pivot. When I was a kid growing up, those were all flood irrigation. The fact is we have 2 major problems. First one is we're pulling too much water out of the ground. The second problem is people like me. The fact is if I was doing incidental recharge like we did as I was a kid, as we did 30, 40 years ago, the groundwater situation wouldn't be as a big problem. That's just the case. We probably still have a problem, but not quite as much. And so I thought about this, and I thought, well, how in the world do we help incentivize people to continue to flood irrigate so that even if we don't have the ability to recharge, at least we have the ability to get incidental recharge. And so what we did, for those who are not aware, is we were grateful for Mr. Raybould to give us this opportunity, and also Lieutenant Governor Becky and the powers that be, is to do a pilot program where we actually flood irrigated before we planted. Now, we were able to only run 16.5 days. I have the numbers, I think you have them now. We were able to sink 357,000 acre feet, 357 acre feet of water that would have never been there because the field wasn't planted until middle of May and would have never been there in the first place. And so we have got to be able to utilize the resource that's already established, which is all these canal systems. And we demonstrated that it worked. And in my mind, that's very exciting because we could potentially just utilize our own resources that have already been developed by our great grandparents who already did all the infrastructure for us. So let's maximize it. And anyway, I wanted to share those numbers with you and just make a public record that the Harrison Canal System has established a way to have our cheapest way and our safest way to sink water. And it was tabled, and that's okay. I understand it being tabled right now because there needs to be some more understanding of how it works. But I would hope that you reconsider that in the future. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free.
Okay, board members, any questions for Mr. Birkinshaw? Okay, thank you.
Sounds great, thank you.
Okay, we saved the best for last. I don't know if she's happy she waited to be last, but we have Mayor Rebecca Casper here today. Welcome, Mayor Casper.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Well, good morning, everybody. It's kind of fun to see so many familiar faces, both at the table and in the room. I've known many of you for a lot of years, and some of you are aging really well. So with that, I just want to say that it was back in 2017 when you had a board meeting in Idaho Falls that I last, in my role as mayor of the city of Idaho Falls, fussed over your visit. And back then we arranged a tour for you of a city well site and talked about pumps and some of the operations that we engage in. And I was just sure, being fairly new in my role, that the Water Resources Board folks did not know enough about how municipalities manage their water. And I was family determined I was going to help, rectify that. Now, I realize that's a very arrogant position, but that's where I was X years ago, or 8 years ago. Anyway, I can assure you, I guess that every drop of municipal water has as much engineering, infrastructure, investment in it as you might find when you're thinking about on the ag side with canals, pivots, pumps, telemetry, and all those other pieces, all that infrastructure that is involved. But anyway, as I'm standing up there trying to, talk, I was pretty much cut off by then board member Vince Alberti. And I speak with affection as I say this, but in his unique way, he kind of just, in a friendly, grumpy way, cut me off the knees and talked about Idaho Falls as I'm trying to talk up municipal water systems. He pointed out that Idaho Falls was the largest municipality in the state of Idaho that did not monitor or meter its water. And that was fact, and there was not much I could do because it definitely turned my moment inside out. And anyway, what I'd like to do, one of the things I want to do as I stand here is to report to you a few things, because it has taken, one of the things I'm very surprised about is how long it takes sometimes to do the right thing. But Idaho Falls has been engaging for the last decade in conversions of our some of our biggest users, like our zoo and our golf courses. We've been converting to from groundwater to surface water. Our water usage increased because we're a growing city. Last year was 8.8% lower than it was in 2023. So even amidst growth, we're finding that we're using less each year, which is in large part due to efficiency measures, whether it's conversions or other efficiencies. We did, in fact, adopt a metering plan. The cost for that is well north of $50 million, maybe in the 60s. And that was in the dollars that we used 5 years ago when we were talking about this. But we decided that we had to start somewhere, and so we started with the commercial side. And we projected it would take us 7 years. We're going to finish it up in 5. And then from there, we'll move on into the residential, which is where the cost is, because we have a lot of our city that was built out before we had metering pits put in. But I wanted to report that we are on that path. I also wanted to let you know that we have exceeded our mitigation requirements. It's part of the agreement that cities are in with respect to recharge, because we've been engaging in some recharge projects, and we have more to come on that. And then one other thing I wanted to tell you is that we have, and I forgot how many miles now of pipes, but when we convey water throughout the city, we do it with pipes. And what I'm going to tell you is not unique to Idaho Falls. This is something that all cities across the United States share, and that is that we can afford with our staff and our dollars, we can afford to replace 1% of our water lines each year. So that means that we have to have a 100-year lifespan for our water lines. That is a definite efficiency problem because all pipes leak, and some more than others. And when we are able to notice without metering, right, we don't necessarily, we're not able to zero in on where those are. Although with each year, we're better at that, zeroing in where the major leaks are. But minor leaks, that's a problem. And the longer that infrastructure goes, the more we'll be leaking. Now, is it recharge leaking or is it just leaking? I can't answer that. But to the extent that we don't know, it may be waste, and we have to think about that. That is something that is unique to cities that is problematic, and that's part of the grand infrastructure worries that we have as a nation. But I wanted to, anyway, point out a few of the successes that we have had. But beyond that, my trip down memory lane is not fueled just because I want to be nostalgic today or to stand here and brag about what we've been able to do. But I also wanted to, I guess I'll just tell you, I'm in the last half of the last year of my last term as mayor of the city of Idaho Falls. And I appreciated Mr. Kerr's emotion because he spoke with conviction, but that's where my emotion comes from too. I care so deeply about this work, and I'm going to miss it. But if you would just let me share a couple more thoughts, because I won't have this opportunity again. The first one is that I want to thank each and every one of you for the service you give as a member of this board. The decisions that you make aren't just for right now. You are impacting future generations. And I recognize that you don't get compensated near enough at all for the grief and the worry and the difficult conversations that you encounter as board members. Excuse me, it's wonderful public service. And I appreciate that you are also looking for intelligent public policy that we need more and more and more of. Secondly, I want to tell you that I am very interested in and mindful of the need for this board to exercise every bit of leadership that it possibly can. Now, I know that you have very specific statutory charge, specific mission. You can't really exceed those bounds. And I'm sure most of the people who ask you things are asking you in some way to exceed your bounds, which you can do. But I will say that when it comes to your charge regarding water development projects and conservation projects, that you be as creative as you possibly can to exercise leadership and, as we've heard in other ways, be innovative. I also wanted to point out that 78% of Idahoans live in and around cities. That suggests increasing urbanization. And I don't believe that there is any reason whatsoever for the agricultural or rural side of our state or elements in our state to consider increasing urbanization as a problem. There is no need for this kind of a mindset. All that it really suggests is that there is a need for us to bring additional expertise and additional ideas into our decision making. And so I would encourage you to take mind or take note of what municipal water management practices are like as you generate policy and practices going forward and make our state's water plan. It was our former president of the College of Eastern Idaho who talked about, still talks about something called futuring. But that's when leaders get together and they decide what we want the future to look like. And I'm asking that when you do your futuring as a board, that you do consider to the municipal mindset as something that you want to incorporate. I guess I'll sum up this way. As we consider Idaho's water future, we can't really afford to have our water supply managed by siloed entities. And I believe that municipal water management and practices and all the worries and things that we take into consideration are not always performed in conjunction with everything that's happening in the ag world or the industrial world. I do believe, kind of like the Olympic rings, that these circles or these spheres of influence that we all have need to intersect. In another setting, you might call those Venn diagrams, right? The area where you have that area of intersection. And I think the intersection is obvious. We want to preserve the natural quality of Idaho's water. We want to have a sufficient quantity of Idaho water. We need to be responsive as we manage the water. And we definitely need intelligent, not necessarily traditional, not necessarily historic, but intelligent policy. And so I would just tell you that cities are ready and willing to be a part of any solutions that you want us to be a part of. All the work that we do to conserve, to landscape differently, to convert, it's all self-initiated. We don't really have any oversight other than that which comes from our voters. And having an entity reach out, partner with us might create a stronger impetus for more work in that area. So I'm partly speaking personally, partly speaking as a mayor, partly speaking as an Idahoan who cares deeply about having water and sufficient water for future growth for generations. And so thank you for your time and your indulgence. I've done nothing but state the obvious, but I care. And I know you do too, and I thank you for that.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think we may have one question.
Mr. Olmstead.
Mr. Olmstead.
Mr. Chairman, Rebecca, I have lunch once a month with Vince Alberti, and I will report to him. He will be very proud of what you've done, because that's a big hill to climb. And it's so important for cities to, to share in, the conservation that agriculture is, and we all are. So.
Well, let me tell you that our sister city, Ammon, was able to convert, and they had a couple of grumpy residents for about 6 months, but they weathered that very well and much more quickly than we did. They're a newer city, but let him know that too, and give him a hug for me, although that might be awkward. Give him a verbal hug, virtual hug. Thank you.
I can hug him.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Okay. All right, I'm thinking financial report and then break. Or do you want break now?
I'm thinking.
We'll do the financial report and then we'll take about a 10-minute break. Neely, are you going to do that for us?
Yeah, Neely will do it, and Cynthia has a follow-on to Neely's report.
Oh, okay.
Just waiting for the report materials. We have a PDF. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll be giving you the financial status report. As of May 31, 2025, the board's available and committed balances are as follows. In the secondary fund, the board has a cash balance of approximately $39.7 million, a committed balance of roughly $30.3 million, and an uncommitted balance of roughly $9.4 million. In the revolving development account, the board has a cash balance of approximately $37.8 million, a committed balance of roughly $26.5 million, a loan principal outstanding of almost $21 million, and an uncommitted balance of $11.2 million. In the water management account, the board has a cash balance of roughly $319 million, total committed funds of approximately $303 million, with uncommitted funds at approximately $16.4 million. So those are the board's three accounts. Now moving on to ARPA funds. As you're aware that you've received appropriations in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Those total received to date amount to $200 million. There's an asterisk there because, again, this financial report is as of May 31st. As of July 2025, when we present those balance sheets, probably at the September board meeting, you will see the additional $50 million received for the FY 2026 ARPA appropriation. And then I would just highlight here that the total obligated for ARPA is 250 million. You've expended roughly 127 million with a remaining committed balance of approximately 132 million. And with that, I would stand for any questions or pass it off to Cynthia.
Okay, any questions for Neely? Okay, Cynthia?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. All right. Hopefully you can see the PowerPoint here. Slideshow. Okay. Can you see the slideshow, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. And I'm going to go to my first slide here. Let's see. It's advancing there. 1 second. Let's see. I apologize. You may just be seeing my, are you seeing a first slide or are you seeing?
We see all of it.
Okay. I might do that. Yeah, I might go ahead and just show it this way. I'm having a little trouble with the advancing, but
That's fine. That's fine. You can just click. Right, there you go.
All right, thank you all. So, well, I hope the tour went well yesterday. There's been a lot of discussion about all of the different projects. It's been a pretty comprehensive discussion, even at this board meeting and the last several committee meetings. So, given that the board is in Eastern Idaho and discussing all the projects in that area, we thought it would be useful to just briefly review the status of the board's allocation of funds in the water management account, and to specifically speak to the new ongoing $30 million appropriation that was approved by the legislature this year. So you all are very familiar with the accounts, the different board accounts, the secondary fund, water management account, and the ARPA funding that was allocated to the board. I think I bring this up to highlight the fact that the board has a wide range of projects and water management activities that receive funding from these different sources. I think it highlights that funding from programs can come from different accounts other than just the water management account, although we've been spending a lot of time budgeting for the water management account. But the ESPA management activities are a good example of that. In the secondary aquifer planning implementation fund, affectionately known as the secondary fund, that receives ongoing appropriations that are used to fund ESPA recharge program. Roughly $5 million is spent on ESPA recharge program. That's also true with the cloud seeding program. And funds from the secondary fund are used for statewide monitoring and modeling, but some of that is also focused on the ESPA. The water management account, as you're all familiar with, is utilized to fund regional water sustainability projects, grants, and loans, and that funding is applied statewide. And then you've also got the ARPA funds, that $250 million were allocated to the board from the state's ARPA funding. And the board has dedicated those funds to projects that qualified under federal guidelines. But in that last bullet, I've just listed some of the projects that have been funded under that. And you've committed a significant amount of funding for ESPA recharge infrastructure, American Falls Spillway and repair, and other projects that are statewide. But again, I think I'm just trying to illustrate here that funding the board utilizes all of these funds to meet some of these water management directives. For this table, I threw in there because this was something that we generated during the legislative session to just try and get a sense of how funding has been applied across the state. And this shows the board districts. And I'm sorry, can you see this well enough, or do I need to zoom in a bit?
You're good.
Okay, great. Well, the map on the left, because we've been talking a bit more, given this recent appropriation, we've been referencing the board's districts. And District 1 covers basically North Idaho. We've got District 2, which covers that southwest portion of Idaho. District 3, that central and southern Idaho, and District 4 is more over in eastern Idaho. And as you can see in this table, this reflects spending from 2015 to early 2025. And you'll see a wide distribution of funding across the districts. District 2 has probably a larger portion, mainly because of the Anderson Ranch dam raise, which is utilizing ARPA funding. But District 3 and 4 have a sort of a relatively close mix of funding allocation. So jumping to the water management account and the appropriations, you all are familiar with these. The board has received significant appropriations since fiscal year 2020, upwards of $380 million. This actually reflects the totals as of March 2025, so you have a little bit more in there from interest. But the most recent appropriation has been an area of focus, of course, through House Bill 445, and that's that ongoing $30 million. The House Bill 445 came with some direction to the board. The $30 million is intended to be used for water projects, and the legislature provided some pretty relatively detailed criteria to guide that spending. And the board has been taking that in consideration as it contemplates how to allocate those funds. The legislation also indicated that for fiscal year 2026, 50% of the appropriation should be used for water projects in board districts 3 and 50% in board districts 4. And the purpose for those, and that those projects should be funded for the purpose of supporting the 2024 stipulated mitigation plan that was entered into by the surface water and groundwater users on the Eastern Snake Plain. So again, you see here in the map, districts 3 and 4, and the Eastern Snake Plain crosses those two board districts. The board in May took some time to adopt a new spending plan, and it's a fairly comprehensive spending plan for the water management account. This slide just shows the allocations for or budget amounts for regional water sustainability projects and other large projects statewide. But I have highlighted in here a few of those budget items are specifically target the ESPA, or funding can be used statewide and potentially in the ESPA. You'll see that statewide recharge infrastructure. Of course, as I mentioned before, ESPA recharge is also funded from the secondary fund and the ARPA funds. Now, the board took some time to consider how to allocate the funds for that FY 2026 earmark from the $30 million appropriation. And so it created an ESPA regional water sustainability project and created some new programs to try to make that funding available across for ESPA management. And you can see in here that the board set some budget amounts for each of those programs. It can certainly revisit those amounts, but it's good to remember that those exist, and that is what staff and others are using as a guideline as projects roll in. This last slide here just captures the remaining portion of the spending plan, funding towards aging infrastructure grants. Those are statewide, and loans and grants and other potential needs. And again, those largely statewide, but that funding can be made available as the board sees fit. So you've got groundwater conversions, efficiency improvements, and monitoring represented in this in some of these budgeted categories as well. So jumping back to the earmark. So again, the board adopted the spending plan and created that ESPA sustainability project and some new programs and grants to apply that earmarked $30 million. The board has spent a fair amount of time, and staff as well, in developing those programs and getting those rolled out over the last several months. So that creating criteria, program criteria. It includes working with water users to understand how these grants can be applied most effectively, and also just getting the applications and those programs rolled out the door. So you'll see that the Surface Water Coalition Monitoring and Measurement Support Grant, those applications will be due in September. ESPA Recharge Infrastructure, that is, of course, ongoing. We've heard some discussion about some projects in that category just at this meeting. And you've got the ESPA Groundwater Surface Water Conversion Projects Grant. Those applications are due in August. And then the Efficiencies Program, Operational Efficiencies Program, the board has considered a couple of projects under that program today. So I'm going to wrap up here, and really the reason that we wanted to bring, I guess, just speak to this and reflect on what's been the board's efforts to date in managing the water management account this year. The board has discussed a number of projects, as I said at this meeting, and going forward through the summer and fall, it will need to consider different projects that qualify under the different programs, but that will of course require tracking and potential consideration of allocation of funding from other board accounts or from elsewhere in the water management account. The board, of course, needs to consider ensuring that that funding is distributed equally between districts 3 and 4. And given that the total cost for projects will be significantly greater than the $30 million allocation for this year, the board will likely have to consider funding with either ongoing and future appropriations from that ongoing $30 million, or consider reallocation of funds in the water management account or other funds. So I think tracking that for the board is those decisions and to manage those funding approvals. We anticipate having those discussions with the Finance Committee and other committees that review some of the projects like Recharge Program and Aquifer Stabilization projects. But we just wanted to make sure that now that some of these programs are being rolled out the door, that that everyone is aware that these tracking mechanisms are being put in place and that those will be part of the decision forward going forward. That's all I have, Chairman, but I'll stand for questions.
Okay, board members, any questions for Caleb? Cynthia, I'll get it right. Okay, for Cynthia. Okay, thank you, Cynthia. We appreciate the update.
Excellent, thank you.
I think that concludes the financial report.
Yes, it does.
Okay, we'll take about a 10-minute break here.
Jennifer, this is Matt Weaver. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Was Cynthia breaking up in the room, or was that just something on my end?
Well, we could hear her pretty well.
Yeah, she was fine.
Good. So when I give my update, if I just speak like this, it'll be okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This week.
Okay, we got everybody back in the room, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We're going to reconvene the meeting. This is Joanne. I thought I just see her. There she is. Okay. All right, we've reconvened Ms. Cole-Hansen. Next item on the agenda is the Bear River Cloud Seeding Proposal from Utah.
Yes, Caitlin Swanson is on by video conference and will present that item.
Okay, Caitlin, welcome to our meeting.
Hey there. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Let me share my screen really quickly. I'll pull up the memo.
Okay, while you're doing that, do we have anybody from Utah on this morning?
We do not have Utah on this morning.
That's fine. I just
Yesterday.
wanted to
Okay.
If they were here, I just wanted to welcome them.
Yeah, Jonathan was unable to attend this morning, so it'll just be me. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I will provide a quick recap of the proposed project, since a more comprehensive introduction to the project was provided to the board at the work session yesterday. Ultimately, the state of Utah's Division of Water Resources has proposed to the board a one-year interstate collaborative cloud seeding pilot project in the Bear River Basin to be operated over the 2025-2026 winter season. The project design is derived from the Bear River Basin feasibility and design study conducted in 2022 by NCAR, the National Center of Atmospheric Research, which was funded by the Idaho Water Resource Board. A full project build-out would incorporate unmanned aerial system technology, otherwise known as drones, remote ground-based generators, and weather instrumentation to support both internal validation by Utah's operator Rainmaker and a third-party evaluation. A neutral third-party evaluation and validation of the operations would be conducted by a qualified scientific entity. And Utah's legislature has approved $3 million for a Bear River cloud seeding project this year, which has provided this opportunity for the board to participate in a collaborative project. Utah and staff have developed a couple options for the board's consideration, which were presented by myself and Utah's head meteorologist, Jonathan Jennings, in a bit more detail yesterday at the board's work session. These options are reflected in this table here. In summary, option 1 would initiate a full project build out for a total cost of $1,906,000 to the board. Option 2 would incorporate all components of option 1, with the exception of any new ground-based generators, for a total cost of $950,000 to the board. And option 3 represents a non-participation option, which would be no cost to the board. Out of these options, staff has recommended option 2. And with that explanation, brief explanation, I will pause here to provide the board a moment to discuss these options further or ask any questions regarding the Bear proposal.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions about the Bear River proposal, or does anybody wish to comment at this time? Okay. I think we're good. I think we're probably ready to move on to decision making.
All right, I will pull up the resolution. Yes, this resolution would authorize the expenditure of funds for the collaborative one-year, excuse me, River Basin cloud seeding pilot project. The whereas section provides background on the proposed Bear River Basin pilot project. And starting on line 39, it reads, now therefore it be resolved that the IWRB authorizes expenditures not to exceed a certain amount from the secondary aquifer fund, cloud seeding program, operations and maintenance, new basins for costs related to operations of a one-year interstate Bear River Basin cloud seeding pilot project, and the evaluation and validation of the one-year collaboration with the state of Utah. And this, the blank funding amount will be edited to reflect the costs associated with whatever investment choice is chosen if option 1 or 2 are voted on to proceed with either of those investment options.
Okay, board members, discussion on the resolution. Any questions on the resolution? Does anybody have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark.
Mark, okay.
I'll make the motion to adopt staff recommendation for option 2, which I believe that number was 950,000 as I remember, but whatever that number was on option 2.
Okay, I believe you're correct. I have a motion to adopt the resolution for the option 2 amount of $950,000. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Okay, we will proceed to vote. Jennifer, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Barker?
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen?
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs?
Aye.
Mr. McMahon?
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
And Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, members of the board.
Okay, all right. Next up, Mr. Patton, ESPA recharge program.
Mr. Anders will present those items under the recharge program.
Okay, good morning, Matt. Good to have you here with us today.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. I'm going to first go through conveyance fees and some proposed updates. A little recap of what the history is here. This discussion started in the Aquifer Stabilization Committee meeting last fall. The guidance from the committee to the staff was come up with some recommendations to update the conveyance fees. On July 11th, we went back to the committee, the Aquifer Stabilization Committee, and made recommendations that I'm going to go through today. So let's first start a little background. This table on the lower right is the current fee schedule for conveyance fees for recharge. There's a different pay rate for upper and lower valley. There's also different pay rates for different times during the year when we're recharged. Staff has found, identified some difficulties and inconsistencies with the current fee schedule. The obvious one is there's different pay structures for the upper and lower valley. There's also variabilities in the annual payments that can make budgeting both for the board and for partners difficult. And some of our partners are nonprofits, so if we have a large recharge year, they end up with a large payment that could jeopardize their nonprofit status. So this table summarizes what the partners have been paid in dollars per acre foot for recharge. The middle column there is for a 5-year average, and the right column is the 11-year average. 11-year average is kind of an odd number, but that's the life of the program, what they've received over the life of the program. Based on this table, our recommendation to the Aquifer Stabilization Committee was a flat fee of $7.50 per acre foot. That's for everybody, upper and lower valley, all times of the year. We also did an evaluation to reduce variability. This figure on the right illustrates the variability in total conveyance fees paid by the board from 2015 to the present. What we see is in a good water year or a big water year, it could be $4.5 million. In a bad water year, it can be down to around $1 million. We tried some averaging methods to
Okay, board members, any questions for Matt?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we adopt a resolution to approve the ESPA managed recharge program standards and processes.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. Jennifer, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Barker?
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen?
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs?
Aye.
Mr. McMahon? Mr. Olmstead?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Grandstone?
Aye.
And Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, there's some projects to show us.
Jennifer, can you call me? I was trying to get that.
Best to let Jennifer do it.
Accept that now.
Right. So now I'm going to talk about the recharge program projects. So on July 11th, the Aqua Stabilization Committee met and considered 5 new recharge projects in the Upper Valley. At that meeting, the committee voted to recommend 2 projects: the Aberdeen Springfield Canal Company Hilton Recharge Project and the Burgess Canal Company Recharge Complex Project. These projects are located on the eastern Snake Lake Aquifer at the 2 green dots in the figure on the right. Here is a summary of both of those projects. The second column is the capital cost. Third column is the estimated cost per acre foot over a 20-year lifespan of this project. The rest of the table has metrics about what happens to the water when it gets into the aquifer. I've included this table just to remind you what the cost is per acre foot of these new projects compared to existing projects. The third column there is calculated the same way so that you can compare an apples to apples. And then the final column is what it's actually costing for recharge per acre foot from the 2015 to 2024 time period. And here are the same data for the Lower Valley. Third column is the estimated cost over a 20-year time period, and the final column is the actual cost from 2015 to 2024. In your board materials, there's 2 resolutions. One to approve funding for the Aberdeen Springfield Canal Company Hilton Recharge Well, and the Burgess Canal Company Recharge Complex. With that, I can stand for any questions.
Okay, board members, any questions on these 2 proposed recharge projects?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the Aberdeen Springfield Canal Company Hilton Recharge Well resolution.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to note that I really like that 73% return to the Blackwood. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
Okay, all right. With that, we'll have a roll call vote. Jennifer, please.
Mr. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. McMahon,
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead,
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone,
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I think we have another resolution before us.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we adopt the Burgess Canal Company Recharge Complex resolution.
Okay, all right. Is there a second? to that
Second.
motion? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, there being none, we'll proceed to vote on this. Jennifer, could we have another roll call vote, please?
Mr. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
McMahon, Mr. Olmstead,
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone,
Aye.
and Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, Matt, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Next up, Mr. Patton, Flood Management Grant Awards.
Neely Miller will present that.
Welcome back to the podium, Neely.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Staff received a total of 8 flood grant applications. Those applications were evaluated, scored, and ranked according to the criteria adopted by the board. Staff reviewed these application scores with the Finance Committee on July 11th, and the committee recommended funding as described in Attachment A to the attached resolution. Jump to the resolution here. It's the standard language. And here are the projects that are listed. You can see the 8 projects. And if you pass this resolution, you would authorize funds in the amount of $460,646 to those 8 entities listed there. And you can see the grant funds broken down by board district as well. There were no competing awards, so that's an acceptable breakdown with your criteria. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Neely on flood management grant proposals? Right.
Mr. Chairman Neely, I guess this leaves us a fair bit in that fund that we didn't spend this year. Does that just carry over and gives us 1.4 million or whatever for next year?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Board Member Olmstead, that is correct. That would allow you to potentially, if there's demand in it, say a big flood year, to fund over $1 million per year, like $1.5 million, given this breakdown.
Okay, any other questions for Neely?
Mr. Chairman, it looks like we've solved all the flooding problems in the state. We don't have anybody needing more help.
Having no water.
It's amazing how drought reduces the flooding problems. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
I will make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution awarding the flood management grant proposals. Is there any discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. Jennifer, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. McMahon,
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead,
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone,
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Neely. Okay, the next item we have is the regional manager's report, and we have Mr. James Cephalo here today. We'd like to welcome James. Appreciate you letting us hang out in your part of the state for a couple of days.
That's great. Thank you. So it was just a couple months ago, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, it's good to be with you again. It was just a couple months ago that I feel like we met in Pocatello, and I presented a regional manager's report there. And so I thought I'd mix it up and maybe talk about something different than just what's going on within our eastern region. For those of you who are here that I don't know, and those of you online that I don't know, my name is James Cephalo. I'm the regional manager for the Department of Water Resources out of the Idaho Falls office. Of course, our region extends from Bear Lake up to Salmon and down to American Falls. We cover a lot of area. Before I jump into contested cases before IWR, I did want to touch on just a few topics of interest in our region right now. Of course, as you guys know, what was looking like an okay, maybe an average water year has turned into a very difficult water year. And that brings some work at the regional office. Drought, the governor has declared drought emergencies in Butte and Custer County and Bear Lake County. I suspect that before this year ends, we'll have more drought declarations for more of the counties in eastern Idaho. That opens the door to people coming in and filing temporary changes, or we refer to as drought emergency transfers. We've already seen a handful of those out of the Big Lost River drainage. That's where they're most utilized, I think. We've also seen some pressures on Water District 1. Of course, our agents at our office support Water District 1, which delivers water through the Upper Snake River drainage, and so there's been additional workload there. And at the same time, a lot of our agents have been working to implement a curtailment order. While most of the irrigators are covered by the mitigation plan that was adopted here over this last year, there are some other water users, commercial uses, industrial uses, domestic level uses that aren't automatically covered by that mitigation plan. Now those individuals can still join groundwater districts and become covered, but it takes some time to reach out to those individuals and work with them. So we've been spending quite a bit of time working through the curtailment order that came out in May, and one that will come out here later this week, and I think the director will probably touch on that. So that's the regional manager's report. Now, for the department, I also am the hearing officer coordinator. And so I spend a lot of time working with other regional managers and department hearing officers on contested cases for the department. So I wanted to provide the board just a quick overview of what we do, the hearing work of the department and the contested case program for the department. So there are a number of ways that contested cases may be generated before the department. The primary sources of contested cases that we deal with, though, are protested applications, both applications for permit, new water rights, or protested applications for transfer, applications to change water rights. We also deal with delivery calls, as you know. Now, I put that delivery calls on this list. Numerically, we don't have a lot of delivery calls. They actually are pretty rare for the department to receive delivery calls, but when we receive them, they take up a lot of staff time to deal with those delivery calls. The other thing that we deal with are just challenges to department actions. Of course, as an administrative agency, any action of the department is subject to a petition for a hearing. Somebody who feels like they're aggrieved because of a department action is allowed to petition for a hearing before the department. So we also receive those just general petitions related to department actions. But there are some other sources of contested cases. Sometimes petitions to remove a water master, well drilling permits, enforcement actions, as the board is aware, stream channel permit decisions, because that's a board program. Those are subject to a hearing if they're contested. Water district creation, sometimes water district procedures are an issue. I'm serving currently as a hearing officer over a challenge to rental pool procedures within Water District 1. And just generally the creation of groundwater management areas or critical groundwater areas. All of these things can create a contested case before the department. I wanted to just highlight the thing that, again, creates the most contested cases before the department, and that's protested applications. So by law, we're required to publish notice of an application for permit or an application for transfer in a local newspaper. If they're really large changes or large applications, we have to publish notice statewide. in the major newspapers throughout the state. Now, I'm not here to defend newspaper publications. We receive this complaint constantly. Nobody reads newspapers anymore. Why are you putting this notice in the newspaper? Ultimately, that's not for me to decide when the state is ready to move on and do something maybe a little bit more modern. But as of today, we still are publishing those in the paper. Now, we also publish those on our website, applications. And I think a lot of the attorneys in the state, water attorneys, rely more on the website for tracking applications. Publications usually say, or always say that a protest must be filed within 10 days of the second publication to be timely. Late protests, if there are no other protests, late protests are rejected. But if there are other existing timely protests that are filed, people have the option of filing a petition to intervene in the matter. It's $25 to protest. Again, I'm not here to defend whether $25 is an appropriate protest fee, or we received that complaint too. How dare you force us to pay anything? To this is too cheap. This is allowing anybody who wants to protest. So that's for the legislature to balance whether that fee is appropriate. Protests must be related though to the review criteria for the department. And generally, when we receive a protest, we notify all of the parties involved, and it initiates the contested case proceedings before the department. Oh, this maybe isn't displaying the right way. Oh, there it is. I thought just for a little bit of humor, I display a couple of protests we received. One I didn't put on here, but I'll touch on. Here in this last year, we had an application filed by Pacific Corp, and we received a protest that just had scrawled on the front of it, "Stop Pacific Corp!" exclamation point. And that was the protest we received. I wanted this one that's shown up here on the top. It says, well, what is the basis of your protest? It says, current holders of groundwater pumping rights and domestic well permits in the proposed new pumping areas are in jeopardy of being adversely impacted by increased extraction of scarce groundwater. That kind of makes sense up to that point, but then it goes on, making the assertion that groundwater 30 plus or minus miles to the south will magically appear underneath the new proposed extraction sites is unconvincing. There are some times in these protests we need Google Translate to just maybe understand what the protestant is touching on. But I did want to touch on this other one though too. To whom it may concern, I write this letter of protest in the matter of Mr. So-and-so applying for water rights to divert water from Buck Creek to his adjoining spring. Buck Creek has run through the Cedars condo since it was developed in the early 70s. Over Labor Day weekend, Mr. So-and-so dammed up Buck Creek and diverted all the water to his spring, leaving the Cedar condos a dry creek bed. It goes on to say, I've enclosed pictures of my pond, water wheel, and waterfall, all of which are supplied by Buck Creek. As we dig a little deeper, and we went to look, this gentleman had no water rights for his pond, his water wheel, or his waterfall. And I just think it can be somewhat comical. It's interesting how many protests, when you start digging into it, reveal some unauthorized water uses. So when we have a contested case before the department, those are all governed by the department's rules of procedure. And we recently revised those and updated those rules of procedure probably 3 years ago to modernize them, I think, and improve them. These rules govern all of the contested cases before the department and before the board. Of course, they create a process that is open and flexible. They establish, what our new rules did is they split the proceeding into an informal section and a formal proceeding. I'll touch on that a little bit more here in a minute. They established the standards for determining what type of evidence we can accept, and they describe the avenues of appeal. So we generally start in the informal side, and we hold what's called an informal settlement conference. These are conducted generally by the regional office where the matter arises, that bring the parties together. Parties may represent themselves, even business entities can represent themselves in the informal side. We discuss the application and the protests, and we identify possible conditions that may address the issues of protest or data that may assist the parties in finding settlement. We are pretty successful, I'm going to say, as a department in finding settlement in this stage. often when people are willing to sit down in a room together and just discuss what's being proposed and find common ground. But if settlement is not possible, in some cases settlement is not possible, we go ahead and push the contested case into the formal side and schedule what's called a pre-hearing conference. This is conducted by an IDWR hearing officer. So prior to the pre-hearing conference, I'd get a call in from, say, the regional manager out of the Boise office saying, hey, we've got a contested case that needs to be put on a path to hearing. I would find somebody, one of our hearing officers, that could take that on, and we would assign that, and the hearing officer then would conduct the pre-hearing conference. What's tricky here, though, is on the formal side, business entities, whether they're a trust, an LLC, a partnership, business entities have to be represented by an attorney. That's consistent with state law. So during the pre-hearing conference, we schedule the critical dates. We schedule discovery, expert reports, depositions, any dispositive motions and mandatory disclosures. And after that pre-hearing conference, the hearing officer will issue a notice of hearing. If we go to a hearing, it is on record, conducted a lot like a civil trial. The parties are able to call. Some of you have sat through those types of hearings. The parties are able to call and examine witnesses. There's cross-examination, and parties offer exhibits into the administrative record. Objections are dealt with by the hearing officer. Ultimately, then, the hearing officer will issue a decision on the matter. But that decision is limited to the evidence that is contained in the administrative record. So even if the hearing officer knows of other data and other information that would guide the decision, they can't take that into account. They're limited to what was actually put in the administrative record. Hearing officer will issue a preliminary order. If the director of the department is the hearing officer, it would be issued as a final order. And then the parties are able to file a petition for reconsideration or exceptions to the director, and ultimately any final order of the department can be appealed to the district court and on to the Supreme Court. Occasionally we'll have some cases that will be on that path. Under our rules of procedure, hearing officers may be, but need not be, attorneys. Hearing officers from the department who are not attorneys, though, should be persons with technical expertise or experience in issues before the agency. Our current hearing officers are, as you can see, a list there, and you'll recognize these are some of our senior staff members in the department. These are people with a lot of experience in their various fields. And Amy Castle and Evan Rhoda are some of our newer hearing officers that are still taking on their initial cases. The department has also in recent years entered into contracts with former employees, attorneys, and judges to help bear some of that caseload, but also in some of the higher profile cases, our current director, Matt Weaver, feels like it's good to have somebody outside the agency take over that role as a hearing officer. So I think especially in delivery call proceedings, you may see that those attorneys and judges are contracted to be those, take on that hearing officer role. So I did want to walk through what our current caseload looks like in Eastern Idaho. I can't speak to the other regions because we don't track informal cases rigorously. We do track our formal cases that have gone to the formal side. But in Eastern Idaho, we currently have 7 protested applications for transfer and 19 protested applications for permit that are still in the informal side. That can change daily. Just yesterday, we received a settlement of a protest, a withdrawal of protest, but at the same time, on 2 other cases, we received 2 other protests. So the numbers fluctuate constantly. On the formal side, we do have 3 protested transfer applications and 5 protested permit applications that are on a path to hearing. In fact, we have a couple of hearings scheduled before the end of the year, and then 3 of these general petitions for a hearing under challenging the department action under Idaho Code 42-1701A. To wrap it up, I know that you guys are nearing the end of this meeting, so we can keep it pretty brief. I wanted to make a few important points. Again, by far, the largest source of contested cases before the department are protested applications for permit and transfer. They aren't delivery calls. However, we spend a lot of our time on those delivery call proceedings if those parties are unable to find an acceptable mitigation plan. Over the last 2 years in Eastern Idaho, I looked at the numbers, approximately 17% of all applications for permit and transfer filed in our Eastern region were protested. So that gives you a sense of, there's roughly 85% of all applications don't get protested. And our percentage of protested matters are much higher than other regions. In northern Idaho and in western Idaho, a lot of the applications for permit are for domestic level uses, and those are generally not very controversial. So this 17% number shouldn't be taken as a statewide percentage of things that are protested. There are lots of applications in the northern part of the state, western part of the state that will never get protested. So our overall protest level is much lower. Most protested, then finally I wanted to just note that most protested matters are actually resolved prior to hearing in the informal stage. If a hearing is held, only a small percentage of those decisions are ultimately ever appealed to the court, and only a small percentage of those that are appealed to district court ever make it in front of the Supreme Court. And I think Matt Weaver, Director Weaver, has spoken to this before, and he might speak to this again. But those decisions that are appealed to the courts, the department decisions are generally upheld. It's rare for us to be here. So with that, that's just a quick overview of our contested case process. And I know some of you have been involved in that before, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about our hearings or our contested case process.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions for James? And you always got something cooking.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
not a question, but a comment for the board's background information. There is an effort underway right now to change the method by which the department handles contested cases, including asking the department to appoint hearing officers from this stable that the state put together for other proceedings, or for other contested cases and so on in other agencies around the state. There's a discussion going on right now with the legislative committee, subgroup of the legislative committee of the Water Users Association. There's not, I haven't seen a consensus on whether or not there's going to be a change, and if so, what that's going to be like. But if anybody wants to find out further about that, we have Mr. Arrington in the back of the room, and you can chase him down and he'll explain everything that's going on in one of his committees.
I gotta go.
But I think it's really significant to pay attention to what the proposals are going to be, because it's going to be, at least there's a potential for legislation to change how the department manages contested cases.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, board members? Okay, thank you, James. Appreciate you. Okay, now we're going to have the director's report. Should have Mr. Weaver online.
Yes, we should.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
There we are. Welcome.
I assume you can hear me okay, and I'll get going.
Yes, very good.
I want to thank James for his presentation. I think those were important matters, and also for his effort. Our Eastern region is our largest region in the state, our busiest region in the state, and also deals with some of the most controversial issues in the state. So to the point that someone made, it's never a dull moment, I'm sure, in James's workday. But just a comment on that contested case workload matter and the ongoing evaluation of that in the Idaho Water Users Association. We have been participating in that. I think it is a good discussion. We're asking good questions. I will note, however, that I'm not invited to the next meeting or two. So perhaps that speaks to what some of the discussion topics will be here upcoming. With that, I want to turn my attention to the current delivery call and curtailment efforts on the Eastern Snake Plain. The current July injury determination stands at 75,300 acre feet with a priority curtailment date of, I believe, October 11th, 1900. And that affects approximately 800 to 900 junior groundwater rights. Later today, I'll issue a curtailment order addressing those new groundwater rights that are coming in because that injury determination got larger in July. Water district efforts have already addressed roughly 1/3 of the curtailed water rights that were on that list from May. And I think this reflects strong initial compliance and coordination. But in anticipation of today's curtailment order over the last several weeks, the department staff have visited all 40+ irrigated tracts that are currently subject to curtailment to verify compliance in the field. And we are going to be resuming publication of a report that we put on our webpage that the public can look at that gives us the status of those affected water rights. Last week, I met with key administrative staff to refocus the department's priorities on water administration and enforcement of the curtailment order. You know, we often have that injury determination in April, and then we have to reevaluate that injury determination in July. And it can be that that injury goes up or down. This year, unlike the previous year, that injury volume went up. And so we've had additional water rights come on to the curtailment list as a result of that. Earlier this week, I met with all of the water masters from affected water districts just to underscore the critical role they play in enforcing the methodology order. And hopefully I delivered a clear message. Consistent and timely enforcement is essential. Enforcement must be uniform and prompt. Many junior groundwater users are participating in approved mitigation plans, and their continued trust in the system depends on us being fair and consistent in applying curtailment. And then the other message I delivered is that, as I did last summer, I'm willing again to reallocate internal department resources to support timely enforcement. And this might include temporary assignments for staff from across the agency to assist with curtailment and compliance in the coming weeks. So when staff from the department or the water districts meet with affected groundwater users, we identify 3 options for them. The first option, the preferred option, is to join your local groundwater district, comply with their approved mitigation plan, and then continue to divert groundwater under the plan's protection. And this applies well to irrigation uses because those groundwater districts typically are focused on irrigation. The second option is to reduce your groundwater use to meet the domestic exemption limitations. And this applies well to small domestic and commercial uses. I think James alluded to this, of which there are a number of these water rights on our curtailment lists. And then, of course, the third option is to cease pumping groundwater and curtail your use. And this is what you have to do if you can't limit your use or join a groundwater district and get protection under an existing mitigation plan. Now, one option they don't have is the ability to submit a mitigation plan and immediately establish protection. As we've discussed in the past, approving mitigation plans requires department review, public notice, and often a contested case proceeding. So this process takes months without protest and can take years with protest. So it's just not a viable means to seek protection during the irrigation season. Then also, when confronted with curtailment, users sometimes submit water supply bank lease rental packages, expecting the department to immediately process them, and with the hope that they will also protect them from curtailment or provide an alternative water supply. But there's 2 problems with this approach. First, your submittal package must come in the fall before the irrigation season to guarantee that it will be processed for this irrigation season. So we have a list of applications that are currently being processed. And just because you submit an application now, even though your need is immediate, doesn't guarantee that we can process it now because there are many other submittals in front of you. But also, and perhaps more importantly, because of the ongoing administration on the ESPA, any water rights that are in the bank that would have utility in responding to a curtailment have long since been rented. And so it is often the case that they're submitting applications hoping to find something to rent in the bank, but there's nothing to rent there because people have come looking for that water over the last many years. Just as a final note on this matter, yesterday I received several methodology-related filings. One filing from the Surface Water Coalition requested a hearing on the July order, steps 5 and 6 of the methodology. In that filing, they allege that I have been lax in implementing curtailment, and as a result, my failure to implement the curtailment order as required by Idaho law has resulted in reduced water supplies for the Surface Water Coalition during the 2025 irrigation season, including during the months of May, June, and July. So I will be responding to this filing and others here moving forward. But I just point really all of this out to emphasize that even though we have the settlement agreement in place with the resultant mitigation plan, which is critical, most of the use on the Eastern Snake Plain that is junior is being protected under existing mitigation plans and, importantly, that settlement agreement. That said, we still have a number, hundreds of water rights that are being curtailed and administered, and we still have these legal filings coming in that we will have to address.
They have a separate agreement.
Changing focus a little bit, our fiscal year 2026 budget went into effect on July 1, and that included funding for 5 new FTEs to create the Water Administration Bureau. And this is a bureau that we need to get created fully staffed because it will be the bureau directly responsible for supporting delivery call proceedings on the Eastern Snake Plain and in other areas in the state. So I have a revised organization at the department that incorporates the new bureau. And essentially, we're dividing the existing Water Compliance Bureau into 2 new bureaus, the Resource Protection Bureau and the Water Administration Bureau. The Resource Protection Bureau will include stream channel protection, groundwater protection, flood management, enforcement, and the Safety of Dams program. The Water Administration Bureau will expand the former water distribution section into a new bureau, which will be responsible for water district and water master training and support, water measurement, and water administration. I'm currently in the process of hiring a bureau chief who will lead that new bureau and hope to have interviews concluded in August. Since much of the new bureau's work will be focused on Eastern Idaho, I anticipate that the bureau will have a strong staffing presence in our southern or eastern regional offices. Now I'd like to give you an update on our underground injection control program and the status of recharge injection well permitting. So on the staffing front, we were recently able to hire our new UIC program coordinator. She started with us on July 7th. She has geology degrees and 2 years of work experience at Hanford nuclear site in Washington. She also is a GIT or a geologist in training. And so that we're hopeful that her work experience and her education will make her a really good fit for this program. As you know, there's been a lot of scrutiny on permitting UIC wells for recharge. And we are in a kind of a changed condition this year. We've talked to this in the past because of the number of applications coming in and then just the scrutiny on these applications. To address that, we are hoping to contract with a third party that can come on and provide technical expertise and support to help us develop recommendations and guidance and policy. And so we're currently working to bring on a qualified third-party engineering contractor. Right now, we're drafting an RFQ or a request for qualifications to identify firms with the necessary engineering and hydrogeologic expertise, and we hope to advertise that RFQ in August or September. Once advertised, we'll host an informational session for interested consultants, and our goal is to select a contractor in October or November. We haven't determined a due date for the contractor's final work product, and that will come once we've identified who we're going to work with. So what's our current permitting approach? We hope that working with that third-party contractor will get us good guidance and policy in place in the future, but in the meantime, we have to process the applications that we have. And we are continuing to process those permits, though they have been delayed due to the vacancy of our UIC program coordinator and the time required to hire other staff. Applicants are currently required to retain a licensed qualified professional engineer to provide a report detailing the following: Project description, state the purpose, provide a physical description of the recharge site. Injectate quality, describe the source, timing, and volume of injected water, including laboratory analysis. Evaluate geological conditions and summarize local and regional geology with supporting data. An engineering evaluation, so demonstrate that injection will not endanger public water systems or domestic wells using field data, analyses, pathogen fate and transport modeling, and other, I guess I'll say, professional standards. And then finally, monitoring plans, identify proposed monitoring well sampling methods, frequency. In this way, we're hoping that by getting an engineer on board, we'll be getting more sophisticated applications that are going to identify and address the concerns we have with approving them. Now, this is a departure from how we've handled processing these applications in the past. I understand that it's an additional burden on applicants, but in my discussions with some of the applicants, they're supportive of this, and it gives them a method to move forward and get a permit. So right now we have 9 pending recharge well applications that we're working on, and they have or will be receiving a letter outlining these requirements. We also currently have over 60 permitted recharge wells in operation. I highlight this because injection well permits are limited by rule to a maximum operating period of 10 years. In practice, recharge permits are often issued with shorter durations, typically 2 to 3 years. So when these permits expire, they must be renewed to continue operation. And as this renewal occurs, existing permit holders might find themselves subject to new standards. And I just think it's important to keep that in mind. Mr. Chairman, one more update for you. As I've reported in your last couple of meetings, I'm wearing 2 hats now. One is the Department of Water Resources. The other is the Soil Water Conservation Commission. I just signed a contract last week and kicked off a 4-month strategic planning effort with Langdon Group, which is a subsidiary to JUB Engineering, and bringing them on to evaluate the merger or possible merger of the Department of Water Resources and the Soil Water Conservation Commission. The process will include preparing a situational assessment of the agencies, conducting stakeholder interviews, preparing a situational assessment report, and then sending it out with surveys to all of the conservation districts and other stakeholders. There'll be a 1-day workshop to evaluate information and identify recommendations. And then Langdon Group prepare a summary report with findings, analysis, and recommendations as to the possibility of merging the 2 agencies. And then they'll present that in the fall to the Idaho Association of Soil Conservation Districts, the Soil Water Conservation Commission, and possibly this board. And so I'm giving you this update because I would like, if possible, for board members to participate in this process. I think it'll be important to get the perspective of the board as we consider this merger. So participation would include an in-person interview between August 13th and the 29th, responding to surveys in September, and then participating in that 1-day workshop, which right now has been tentatively scheduled for October 17th. So I'm going to send out an email to all of the board members and see if I can get any volunteers to participate in that effort. Again, I think your perspective is just critical to a full evaluation of what the governor here is asking us to look at. So that concludes my comments, Mr. Chairman, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best.
Okay, board members, any questions for Director Weaver?
Mr. Chairman.
Al.
So Matt, I have gotten some questions recently and over the years about the department's practice requirements of people having to submit documents in person with wet signatures on them. And everybody in the world is using electronic filing these days. And so the question is, what, if anything, can we do to facilitate electronic filings with the department?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Member Barker, that's a good question. And we do have several application development projects underway right now which address this issue, which is providing online reports and forms so that people can file applications with the department, pay fees associated with those applications with the department. We are working through our new Laserfish document management system to stand up these applications, and we're partnered with a contractor and then the Office of Information Technology Services to do this. So I think we all appreciate that this is common practice in the modern era, that it makes the department more efficient. It satisfies, customer interest in this ability, and we're pursuing it. And if there are certain processes that people have interest in seeing addressed sooner rather than later, I'd invite those comments. Right now, we're working on automating the process for, let's see, what are the two projects we have going right now? One is notice of change in ownership, because we receive hundreds of those a year. And the other one is submitting proof for permit use. So when you are at the end of your water right permit period, you have to submit proof of use to the department. And that is another process that we're building out right now.
Well, however quickly we can do it, I think would be beneficial to the public and to the department.
I agree.
Okay, other questions or comments for the director? The director, I guess you're looking for at least a couple of board members to participate in the survey information process for the Soil and Water Commission. Maybe more.
I am, sir. I think 2 would be a good minimum number.
Okay, all right. We may have to use the Army method to get the volunteers, but we'll get them. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thanks for being with us today. We know you have a busy schedule and appreciate you allotting the time to spend with us this morning, even if
I wish I could have been there in person.
Okay, maybe next time. Okay, Mr. Patton, we're down to non-action items for discussion. Board members, Dale, do you have anything?
No, good meetings.
Al?
Nothing.
Dean? Pat? Brian?
No.
Joanne?
No.
Okay, when do we get to do this again?
Okay. We have, I think, briefly discussed, we will need a special board meeting sometime in mid to late August to deal with rules issues. And then the next regular meeting is September 11 and 12 in Twin Falls.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark.
Yeah.
Hey, I just would like to thank you all for putting up with me and apologize for not being there in person. Hope I get this situation rectified in the very near future. So.
Okay. Hey, Mark, and I apologize. I didn't call on you for.
Not a problem.
I looked around the room and.
I understand perfectly. Have
Okay.
a good day.
Right.
Thanks.
Well, hey, we know you're a little bit limited on travel options right now. Appreciate you attending by Zoom and your contributions to the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Brian, the Water College meeting is what, August 25th?
I believe it's about August 25th.
Where did the Water College booster go? Did he leave?
He did leave.
He was really worried about having to answer some questions.
Yes, 25th, 26th. And that will be in Boise.
In Boise, okay.
If you are interested in going, please let Jennifer know and she will get you all registered.
Okay. All right. And with that, I think we're looking for.
I'll move that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you.
Any opposed? I suppose.